In the annals of military history, few commanders have earned such conflicting reverence as Erwin Johannes Eugen Rommel. Known as the Desert Fox, he became the embodiment of tactical brilliance wrapped in moral complexity. His lightning campaigns across North Africa elevated him to legendary status among both allies and enemies. Yet his story remains one of a soldier caught between professional excellence and the darkening shadow of the regime he served. Rommel's legacy endures as a testament to the eternal tension between military genius and moral responsibility. Born on November 15, 1891, in Heidenheim, Württemberg, Erwin Rommel entered the world during Germany's rapid ascent as a European power. His father, also named Erwin, served as a schoolmaster and later headmaster, instilling in young Rommel a deep respect for education and discipline. His mother, Helene von Luz, came from a family with noble connections, providing the household with cultural refinement. The Rommel home emphasized duty, order, and intellectual curiosity. As a child, Rommel displayed mechanical aptitude, often dismantling and rebuilding devices with meticulous precision. This early fascination with machinery would later manifest in his innovative approach to armored warfare, and, unlike many of his contemporaries who pursued university education, Rommel chose the path of professional soldiering. In 1910, at age 18, he enlisted as an officer cadet in the 124th Württemberg Infantry Regiment. The rigorous military academy at Danzig shaped his foundational understanding of leadership, strategy, and the warrior's code. His instructors noted his exceptional ability to think independently and adapt quickly to changing circumstances. During these formative years, Rommel developed his philosophy of leading from the front, believing that commanders must share the risks and hardships of their soldiers. This principle would define his entire career and earn him unquestioning loyalty from those under his command. The Great War transformed the young lieutenant into a seasoned combat veteran. Rommel's first taste of battle came in August 1914 during the invasion of France, where he distinguished himself through aggressive reconnaissance and quick decision-making. His defining moment arrived during the Battle of Caporetto in 1917, where he led a small detachment in a daring assault that captured thousands of Italian soldiers and numerous artillery pieces. This action earned him the Pour le Mérite, Germany's highest military decoration, at the remarkably young age of 25. The experience taught Rommel that audacity, speed, and surprise could overcome vastly superior numbers, lessons that would become hallmarks of his tactical doctrine. In 1916, Rommel married Lucia Maria Mullen, whom he had met during his time at the military academy. Lucia, known as Lucy, became his steadfast companion and confidant throughout his tumultuous career. Their marriage, blessed with the birth of their son Manfred in 1928, provided Rommel with emotional stability and grounding. Lucy possessed remarkable strength and intelligence, managing the household during Rommel's frequent absences while serving as his trusted advisor on matters both personal and professional. Those who knew Rommel intimately described him as deeply devoted to his family, yet driven by an almost obsessive dedication to military excellence. His personal correspondence reveals a man torn between domestic happiness and the consuming demands of his profession. The interwar period saw Rommel serving in various regimental and staff positions, during which he authored Infantry Greift an, or Infantry Attacks, a tactical manual that became required reading in military academies worldwide. The book demonstrated his ability to distill complex battlefield experiences into clear, actionable principles. His reputation as both a theorist and practitioner of modern warfare caught the attention of Adolf Hitler, who appointed Rommel to command his personal protection battalion during the 1939 invasion of Poland. This assignment, while prestigious, placed Rommel in direct proximity to the Nazi leadership and began his complicated relationship with the regime that would ultimately determine his fate. The 1940 campaign in France catapulted Rommel to international prominence. Commanding the 7th Panzer Division, dubbed the Ghost Division for its rapid movements, he executed a masterpiece of mobile warfare. His forces advanced with such speed that they often outpaced their own supply lines and communication networks. At Arras, Rommel personally led a counterattack that broke British armored resistance, demonstrating his belief that commanders must be visible at the point of decision. The French campaign showcased Rommel's genius for combined arms tactics, integrating tanks, infantry, artillery, and air support into a seamless instrument of warfare. His success in France earned him promotion to Field Marshal in command of the newly formed Afrika Korps. In February 1941, Rommel arrived in North Africa to bolster Italian forces facing defeat at the hands of British Commonwealth troops. The desert became his laboratory for innovation and his stage for immortality. Unlike the structured battlefields of Europe, the North African theater demanded flexibility, improvisation, and an almost artistic appreciation for terrain and movement. Rommel quickly grasped that success in the desert depended on mobility, logistics, and the ability to concentrate force at decisive points. His first offensive caught British forces completely off guard, reversing months of Italian defeats and establishing the Afrika Korps as a formidable fighting force. The siege of Tobruk became Rommel's obsession, and his first significant setback. The fortress port, defended by Australian and British troops, withstood repeated assaults throughout 1941. Rommel's tactical brilliance met its match in the determined resistance of the garrison and the logistical nightmare of maintaining offensive operations across vast desert distances. His forces lacked adequate supplies, reinforcements, and air support, yet Rommel continued his attacks with characteristic determination. The failure to capture Tobruk quickly revealed the fundamental weakness of Axis strategy in North Africa: the inability to sustain prolonged operations without secure supply lines across the Mediterranean. Operation Crusader in November 1941 marked the beginning of Rommel's greatest period of tactical mastery. Facing a massive British offensive designed to relieve Tobruk, Rommel executed a series of brilliant defensive maneuvers that shattered enemy armored formations. His use of anti-tank guns in offensive roles, particularly the feared 88mm weapons, created killing fields that decimated British tank attacks. The battle demonstrated Rommel's ability to read battlefield situations with almost supernatural intuition, positioning his forces to maximum advantage while maintaining the initiative through aggressive counterattacks. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the Afrika Korps emerged victorious, forcing the summer of 1942 represented the zenith of Rommel's desert campaign. His offensive toward Egypt brought Axis forces within 60 miles of Alexandria, threatening British control of the Middle East and the vital Suez Canal. The First Battle of El Alamein saw Rommel's forces stop just short of their ultimate objective, not by British tactics but by the cruel mathematics of logistics and supply. Fuel shortages, ammunition deficits, and the exhaustion of his troops created insurmountable obstacles. Rommel himself fell ill with severe stomach ailments and jaundice, yet continued to direct operations from his command vehicle, his legendary presence inspiring his men despite deteriorating circumstances. The Second Battle of El Alamein in October 1942 marked the turning point of the North African campaign and Rommel's career. General Bernard Montgomery, commanding the Eighth Army, had spent months preparing a methodical offensive backed by overwhelming material superiority. Rommel, recently returned from medical treatment in Germany, faced an impossible situation, defending static positions with depleted forces against an enemy enjoying massive advantages in men, tanks, artillery, and air support. The 12-day battle became a grinding attritional contest that played to British strengths while negating Rommel's tactical mobility. Despite his desperate attempts to preserve his forces through fighting withdrawals, the Afrika Korps was systematically destroyed. The long retreat from El Alamein to Tunisia consumed the remainder of 1942 and early 1943. Rommel conducted a masterful withdrawal, using terrain, weather, and limited forces to delay Montgomery's pursuit while preserving the core of his command. The campaign demonstrated his ability to maintain unit cohesion and morale under the most adverse circumstances. His forces fought a series of brilliant delaying actions, inflicting casualties far out of proportion to their numbers while avoiding complete annihilation. However, the strategic situation remained hopeless, as Allied forces landing in Northwest Africa during Operation Torch created an inescapable vice that would ultimately crush all Axis resistance in North Africa. Recalled from Africa in March 1943, Rommel was assigned to inspect and strengthen the Atlantic Wall fortifications along the French coast. His tour of the defensive positions revealed catastrophic weaknesses in German preparations for the anticipated Allied invasion. With characteristic energy, Rommel transformed the static fortification system into an active defense incorporating obstacles, minefields, and mobile reserves. He correctly predicted that the invasion would come at Normandy, arguing that the battle must be won on the beaches rather than inland. His disagreements with other German commanders over defensive strategy reflected deeper divisions within the Wehrmacht leadership about how to respond to Allied strategic superiority. The conspiracy against Hitler drew Rommel into its web through his association with anti-Nazi officers and his growing disillusionment with Germany's prospects. While never a core member of the plot, Rommel's name appeared in confessions extracted from arrested conspirators following the failed July 20, 1944 assassination attempt. His conversations with fellow officers had revealed his belief that Germany must seek peace to avoid total destruction. The SS investigation concluded that Rommel posed a threat to the regime despite his legendary status as Germany's most famous general. Hitler faced the dilemma of dealing with a national hero whose loyalty had become questionable. On October 14, 1944, two generals arrived at Rommel's home in Herrlingen with a stark ultimatum from Hitler: face public trial for treason, or accept suicide with honor. The regime offered to protect his family and preserve his reputation in exchange for his death. Rommel, recovering from severe injuries sustained when his staff car was attacked by Allied aircraft in July, understood the impossible choice before him. After a brief conversation with Lucy, he departed with the generals, taking a cyanide capsule during the drive to a nearby hospital. The official announcement proclaimed that Field Marshal Rommel had died from his injuries, and Germany mourned the loss of its greatest military hero. Rommel's funeral became a state ceremony attended by Nazi leadership and thousands of German citizens who genuinely mourned their fallen hero. The irony was profound, a regime celebrating the death of a man it had murdered for his perceived disloyalty. Hitler's eulogy praised Rommel's military achievements while concealing the truth of his demise. The Desert Fox was buried with full military honors, his reputation intact, and his legend secured. Only after the war would the circumstances of his death become known, adding another layer to his complex historical legacy. The legacy of Erwin Rommel transcends the usual boundaries of military history, encompassing questions of professional duty, moral responsibility, and the nature of leadership itself. His tactical innovations, particularly in mobile warfare and combined arms operations, influenced military doctrine for generations. The Rommel myth, carefully cultivated during the war and perpetuated afterward, served various purposes for different audiences: German pride in defeat, Allied respect for a worthy opponent, and post-war reconciliation between former enemies. Modern military academies study his campaigns not only for their tactical brilliance, but also as examples of how individual genius can temporarily overcome systemic disadvantages, while ultimately succumbing to the brutal